All right, so we will go ahead and start tonight's Commission for the Arts meeting. Hello, everyone. It is 5 o'clock on November 3rd, and we will do a roll call.
Let the record show that all commissioners are present except Commissioner Kadakia, who is absent.
Thank you. And for those who'd like, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And any special presentations and proclamations?
There are none.
And moving on to item 5, any oral communications tonight?
Yes, for oral communications, we have 2 speakers. The first speaker is Steve Dilley. He's representing Vet Art, and he's here to speak to the topic of arts in parks, creative economy, and arts wellness advocate. So you may come up to the podium, and as a reminder, you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Good morning. Thank you for morning. It's been a long day. Good morning, everyone. Steve Dilley. I'm the Executive Director of the Veterans Art Project. I have 3 things I'd like to touch on today. One is part of our Christmas wish list, and that we want to say a big thank you to both Colette Murphy and Jessica Roberts. The Veterans Art Project collaborated with the city of Encinitas. Are you arts? What is your city of Encinitas arts? Yeah. And we did a state arts in park grant, funded us to do arts making with people in Encinitas city parks. We did 27 events this year with over 400 attendees. So that was, I think, a really great thing, and we'd love to see the city to continue to fund that, especially of all the people that came from outside of the city, tourism component there. We want to say thank you very much. Number 2, I am part of a contractor for California Arts Council Creative Economy Report, which has recently been released. And this is a blueprint for California's creative economy that many of us may not know is about 15% of our state's economy. And as a contractor for that, we are hosting a feedback session that'll be at San Diego Made on January 30th between 9 and 12:30. And we're sharing this information. I'll be leaving these flyers because we're trying to get as many different voices to speak about the benefits and what we want a creative economy plan to look like. Final, I'd like to share with you a visual and performing arts essay that was done about the Veterans Art Project. It was Reginald Green. This was written up by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, and I think there is no better document that I could hold to you to advocate for the power, transformational power of the arts for veterans. And we have right now Reginald holding his arms out above sculptures that he make. We have his personal story included here, and he wraps it up with a poem at the end. So it's a really strong document, and I leave this here so it could be shared with the commissioners. Thanks for letting me speak. Have a nice night. What's that?
Yeah, I think we have flowers and chocolates for you now.
All right, come back every month.
Thank you so much, Steve. I just really appreciate all the work that you do. I haven't had direct contact with you, but I have heard from so many people indirectly and directly, and I just think that Vet Arts provides such an amazing resource and opportunity for Encinitas, for North County and all around, and partnerships with the city are so important, and so I just, I know the commission is grateful, and the department is grateful, and the community is too.
Thank you.
The second speaker is Molly Hintlian, and she's here to speak about Art Night event feedback. Okay, as a reminder, you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Sorry, I'm short. Good evening, Commission. I just wanted to give some event feedback from the most recent art night. I just feel like it was too much, too many locations. So it was really hard to take it in. And I will commend, I went to all 3 locations. The library activities were very well executed. I could have stayed there all night. But I wanted to check out what the other 2 locations were. And I know it's difficult. So I just want to offer suggestions that perhaps it's broken out by one location with a big emphasis on that location, because you're not going to get everyone at all locations anyway. But it would help impact the work. The same amount of effort goes behind trying to get all 3 locations activated as one location. So I feel like there'd be probably more community input, participation, and feedback. As far as the shuttle bus, this time I went to both your art nights, the one back in August. The shuttle bus, there was lots of rider confusion, and it was more with the senior citizens. So I don't know if there could have been an advocate or some kind of sign that helped, because at each location, we sat for quite a bit while people asked what the route was, what's next, will you come back and pick me up? So there was a lot of, logistics that was quite natural, but I was very timely with each location, and it was hard to hit all 3. As far as timing also, maybe you could start earlier. 6 o'clock is kind of dinner hour, so if it was 4 o'clock, people might think of, from 4 to 6, and then I'll go get an early dinner, or coordinate with a food truck or a refreshment stand in the parking lot, so it's more indoor, outdoor. And I know that's restrictive probably at the library, and it's probably restrictive at Pacific View, but I would think at the community center, you might have a little bit more latitude. And if you made them each different, it would help raise that awareness. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly, for that feedback. It's always good to hear from people beyond just how great it is, right? And I just want to clarify, there are more than 3 locations for Art Night. There was also a lot happening here at City Hall, as well as partnering organizations and businesses in town. So I want to thank all the staff for that. And yeah, I think it's always good to take that feedback and make things better, right? Moving on to action item 6. I don't believe there are any changes to the agenda.
There are no changes to the posted agenda.
So we'll move on to item 7, approval of the minutes. And there's 2 here. One is to approve our September 2nd special meeting minutes and October 6th.
So just as a reminder, if you weren't present at the September 2nd meeting, but you did watch the meeting, you can vote. Otherwise, you must abstain for both meetings, actually.
So we'll go ahead and take the September 2nd meeting. Does anyone have comments before a motion is made? No? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I will second the approval.
Okay.
Let the record show that the motion passes with all commissioners voting yes, except Commissioner Kadakia, who is absent.
Thank you. And then moving on to October 6th, the special meeting. Does anyone have any comments on that one, or are we ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Okay.
Let the record show that the motion passes with all commissioners voting yes, except Commissioner Kadakia, who is absent.
Thank you. So moving on to action items, number 8A, the Encinitas Holiday Parade participation, which is also awesome. We have Nicole White here tonight. So thanks for being here, Nicole, and would love to hear what you're here to share.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. So my name is Nicole White, and I'm supervisor with Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts, and I oversee the special events in addition to the arts events that you guys have so many of. But I wanted to come here just to share some information about this year's annual holiday parade. As you probably know, this is a big deal in Encinitas, and it is such a unique event that we get, tens of thousands of people that come to participate or to watch the parade. So this year's theme is Peace, P-E-A-C-E, by the Pacific, and the theme is chosen by a volunteer group, a volunteer committee for the parade. And they're hoping that this year's theme will capture the coastal vibe of Encinitas as relaxed, full of good energy, and that on parade night, when family, friends, and neighbors all come down to watch, that they will see one of our 100 floats that will celebrate peace, fun, and the season, reflecting the community's creativity and culture. So that is our theme this year. And historically in the past, we have been able to have the commissions for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts participate. And so I'm here to invite the Arts Commission for the Arts to participate in this year's event. We do have our Parks and Recreation Commission that will be participating, and they're going to do something a little new this year, I think, and they usually walk, but I think they have an added bonus. I don't want to give away any secrets yet. And then our Youth Commission has participated every year, and they now do double duty. So the Youth Commission opens the parade. They are the first ones down the route. And then they close the parade with Santa. They are his very special helpers. And then we have our Senior Citizens Commission that last year and now this year, because it was such a success, they added a group of seniors that dance down the entire parade route. So, and the purpose was that they just wanted to raise awareness for the opportunities that are available at the Senior Center and programming that's available to the community. And that's what the Parks and Recreation Commission is also hoping to do, is just highlight some of the opportunities for Parks and Recreation. So if the Arts Commission is interested in participating, I did want to bring forward an opportunity that I thought was pretty exciting. One of the local businesses owners has a stake bed truck that they would like to drive with the commission. And we have the opportunity to put a band or some sort of music on that truck, which would be amazing because there's never music in the beginning of the parade, and music makes every parade better. So we're hoping that this is an opportunity for you guys and that you would have some interest in supporting that. Again, we have a truck that's available, and we can get some local musicians available, and that might be a really great highlight for you as the Arts Commission to bring attention to all of the programming that you work so hard for here in the community. So those are our opportunities.
And I wanted to share that it is, while it's not included in the report because it hasn't been guaranteed, there is a strong likelihood that we would be able to secure funding to support a band or a musician.
Well, how about if some commissioners serve as musicians for free?
That is an option as well. Just throwing out options for you guys to think about.
Thank you. That's awesome. What fun. We no longer have to secure, not have to, but we've done a great job about securing convertibles in the past. And what an amazing opportunity to actually support a band of musicians. I think that is awesome. And also what an amazing opportunity, Pacific View really needs all the marketing help it can get. And here we have a whole community. And so I would suggest that anything that we do with this opportunity should really focus on highlighting and celebrating Pacific View. and there's so much music stuff. The Thursday night sessions come to mind, which is full of local musicians. And is there anyone who would like to serve on an ad hoc to help put that together? Jennifer?
Well, as you mentioned that, I have access to some drums and be happy to facilitate a small combo of people who even no experience necessary.
Just to clarify, were there musicians in mind, or was this more of kind of a general?
Nothing has been
situation?
finalized, but
Okay.
we have, discussed some opportunities for some groups, maybe groups that have performed for us from the community that would be open to some sort of, seasonal spirit music for the parade. So yes, we can definitely, we can support organizing that, or if the commission takes on a different interest, that's fine as well. But we would just love to have your participation. We do support, or I do support the commissions with their entries. However, we do look for the commissioners to jazz up the vehicle, give it some decorations, some input, really make it, your vision. And we're able to support by printing some banners and things like that to market, who you are and what you're advertising.
Yeah, well, as kind of the parade guy the past couple of years for the commission, that sounds amazing and like a big upgrade from, as Commissioner, as Chair Fox was saying, rounding up a convertible. Are these, it's loud out there. There are a lot of people. Are the bands you're talking about more like rock bands, or what kind of music? Something we might have to think about a little bit is making sure that we have musicians that can be heard.
Like amplification or something like that.
I'm sure all those details would be worked out.
We can definitely work out those details. There are a couple of other entries that they do bands on flatbeds, and they have amplification going down the route. So that's definitely something. We definitely want the public to be able to hear the music.
We've got a PA that belongs to the city, and I'm sure if we get a little Jenny on the back, we'll be able to hear whatever music we want. Jenny meaning generator, sorry.
I was like, who, me?
The lingo.
No.
We're here to educate. All right, let's go ahead, since we have a full agenda, with anyone who would want to be on this ad hoc, and then all those details can get worked out, and it'd be really exciting to hear in December what you all or anybody comes up with. So I hear Commissioner Hebert, Morakovitz. Is there a third? Okay. Perfect. So that is the ad hoc.
It's us again.
And
I'm happy to participate on the parade night, but I can't take anything else on right now.
so per the clerk's direction, we need to take a vote on that.
So I will make a motion to create an ad hoc for the holiday parade, consisting of Jennifer Morakovitz and James Hebert.
I'll second.
Let the record show that the motion passes with all commissioners voting yes, except Commissioner Kadakia, who is absent.
Thank you. All right, awesome. That is really exciting. It is so weird that we're beyond Halloween and into the holiday season.
You have to jump on it, yeah.
Chair Fox, before you begin, we do have one speaker that would like to speak to an agenda item, so for 8B. So
Thank
would
you.
you like me to introduce her?
Maybe she can speak once we come to that.
Okay.
Is that?
Yes, I can introduce her. She's here to speak to 8B1A. So.
Oh, 2-1A. Sorry, I was
Yeah.
thinking 1B. Yes, absolutely.
no,
Introduce
to
her.
8.
Sorry.
Well, no, to 8B1.A. So we're on 8B. It's the beginning of 8B.
Yes, so the next, we will be discussing 8B 21A, which
Yes.
is what she is here to speak about. So please.
So, okay, so the speaker is Molly Hintlian, and she is here with a neutral position to speak to agenda item 8B21A. Reminder, you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Okay, thank you, Molly Hintlian. So if I was to read the report correctly that Robin and Jennifer worked on as an ad hoc, is that correct? I know you can't speak to me, but that's my takeaway. And what I'm going to speak to is there were some really good points there. I think the issue you can all agree on is programming and programming activation for Pacific View and program outreach and coordination with the schools. So I had 2 quick questions. Has there been surveys done and given to the past teachers and the past students who've participated, adults or kids? Because that kind of feedback would be helpful as you shape future programs. So that's one part. So when I was looking at the program benefits outline, is that what you're presenting to the council, and how will that be activated? So maybe that's what you're talking about tonight. But as far as the items, when you get to implementation strategy, it's definitely outreach to the local schools. So if we haven't been doing it, how do we do it? Is it a staff person that's directed to do it? Is it a staff person that's allocated to manage that? And collaborating with the schools. So I guess I was trying to understand, is this what is being presented to the council as your outline and recommendation? And I know we're all eager to see what the financial report's going to be and what the updates are. I just feel like a structured effort, as you've outlined here, you kind of touched upon it, and that's where I'm in support of. I'm just neutral because I was unsure of some of the other moving parts that maybe you're going to discuss tonight and make it clearer. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. I will go ahead and clarify that how's the best way to clarify that? What was attached to the agenda are items that was created last year by an ad hoc that was working on community involvement with Pacific View and city art programs. So we have included that. Our current work plan item is to generate ideas, a list of ideas that could potentially generate additional revenue funding for Pacific View. Our ask is also a little bit bigger now that we have been asked to attend a joint meeting with City Council on November 12th to receive staff's report about the year that Pacific View has been open. So it's twofold, and I can understand a little bit of confusion if you're not deep into it. To generate a list of ideas, we have a template, and we've all been generating ideas as they come to us and adding them to the agenda so that they can have public eyes and other commissioner eyes. Tonight's meeting is not focused on any one of those items. Tonight's meeting is really about making sure that the commission is prepped to receive the staff report on November 12th alongside council, and that is when the public will receive it too, whenever it's posted to the agenda beforehand, and to ask any questions that won't be part of that report, since that we'll receive that report altogether. So no questions necessarily that are repetitive as far as financial information. It's basically prepping all of us to be able to be thinking clearly and confidently to receive that report and have it land. So so again, the school program is a great idea. Jennifer, myself, and Carla all worked on that last year together. And we did vote and sent a letter to council last year. So they have had eyes on that, but nothing has happened with it really. So Jennifer reintroduced that just so that it didn't get lost in the shuffle. All right. So considering all that, I think we'll move on to any questions from staff. And there is an ad hoc with Vicky, Carla, and myself for Pacific View. Maybe we'll start with ad hoc questions and then open it up further to any other commissioners who have questions for staff and any discussion. Before I say that, before I open it up, I do just want to reiterate that November 12th is, I had a meeting with Mayor Ehlers, and I asked him, what is the purpose of that meeting? The purpose of that meeting is to receive that report, for council to receive that report, for the commission to receive that report in the public, and then we have information that we need to move forward to make recommendations about, how, any recommendations about how Pacific View can most move forward most successfully. So it's a really exciting item. It's a big item, and I'm so happy that we're all here working on it. So again, less about specific ideas. We will not be presenting anything at that meeting. We can ask clarifying questions. We can, anybody obviously can make any statement they want, but it's not going to be a voted on joint statement of the commission. So with that, Carla, did you have questions?
No, just, yeah, thank you. And thank you to city staff for allowing us to ask more questions about Pacific View. I think of this as sort of our discovery phase. So we're just gathering as much information as we can so that we can kind of process that later. So I do have a few questions. And I've kind of grouped them into different categories. The first category is classes and programming. And I was wondering if you could talk us through how the programming of the classes is decided, like what classes are offered when and what that process looks like.
So we have two different kinds of instruction. We have contract instruction, and then we have staff instruction. The contract instructors are independent contractors, and they bring forth classes that they want to teach. Sometimes they're really successful, and sometimes they're not quite as successful. If things have tried to run a number of times and not met minimum enrollment, and just maybe it's just not meeting its audience, then there's a discussion with that instructor about, is there something maybe to change up? On the staff side of things, we're responding to feedback. So for example, we do there's an automatic survey response that goes out to everyone who's taken a class, and it asks questions about what did you like on a number of different points about instruction, the instructor, and then gives an open-ended opportunity to share more about what they want. There's another survey that's been out since before Pacific View opened that is basically open-ended. Tell us what's on your wish list. What is it that you want? And that could be anything from the subject, a class topic, or it could be we want more benches outside. So there's no real limitation. So all of that feedback is taken into consideration. And then, we may get a request for a class. We have to have a competent, skilled instructor to teach it. So where we might get a lot of adult tap, for example, is something that is a pretty regular, that in swing dance. We don't have an instructor yet, but we're excited every time we come across someone who might be, because we're aware of a community interest in those subjects.
Okay, thank you. So it could be that the staff has plans for a class, for example, watercolor, and then a contract instructor might also suggest a watercolor class. So that could happen because there's...
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. And then the survey, I know you mentioned the survey. There was initially the public survey to ask generally what people were interested in.
Yes.
And so have you found that to be, like, if the survey comes in and somebody says, we'd love a watercolor class, do you actually find that watercolor class to fill? Like, have you found a correlation there?
Well, watercolor in general
I'm
is...
just picking on
Right,
watercolor.
so that one happens to be quite popular.
Right.
But, so I think if we took that one out and substituted it with something else, it kind of depends. So people might be interested in it, but we might not be putting it on the right day of the week or time of day. And we just, starting mid-August, shifted the open hours to have more in the after school, after work time on weekdays. So that, for a certain kind of working professional, student, that gave more opportunity for things. So it's a mix of making sure we're offering it, making sure it's being offered at a time that the people who want to take it can take it, and then making sure that they know we're offering it.
Right. And as far as the feedback, it's mainly the polls that, like, at the end of the class, the survey that you get, is that mainly the feedback you get in terms of, never mind, we'll forget that for a second. So wanted to go on to the different formats of classes. So as far as I know, there's sort of one-time workshops, week-long camps, and weekly classes. Are there trends in which of these formats do well?
That doesn't have a, like, here's the absolute answer. Workshops, which are generally 1 or 2 day, are smaller time commitments. They're also smaller financial commitments. So in one way, you could say they have a lot of popularity because they're easy. They're the snack size. And then some people who have more time and can commit to longer, if it's something that they're really interested in, will sign up for those longer ones. The youth school break camps, wildly successful. If I had had more instructors available, we could have offered more.
Okay, so are you saying that the workshops are successful
Yes.
in terms of people taking it, but not necessarily in terms of revenue? Or did I misunderstand that?
Well, they don't cost as much
Right.
as a class series. There's less class time. So it's kind of an apples and oranges comparison, but they are equally popular, just for kind of different reasons.
Gotcha. And then have you noticed any other trends in terms of subject time, instructor, or something else where, like, that you can say this is a popular time or this is a popular class or something like that?
Not really. We have noticed, I guess I should say, we've not noticed necessarily in terms of popularity, but definitely noticed more in terms of where things are a struggle. On the initial survey, weekends, very popular, Saturday and Sunday. And then in real life, it's difficult to find instructors available to teach on Sunday, both contract instructors and staff instructors. So because we haven't been able to be able to create classes to fill what was in that survey's desire, it's difficult to really see, is it that the public doesn't want to take a class, or we're just not able to provide enough? We just don't have enough to put out.
Gotcha. So that struggle is mainly instructors.
If we don't have an instructor, we can't offer it. And like I said, it's both. It's staff and the independent contractors.
Okay. And then summer camp.
Yes.
I know you guys had a really successful summer camp. And you just mentioned if you would have had more instructors, you would have done more weeks. Can you tell me how many weeks and over how many classrooms there were staff instructors doing the summer camps?
Yes, and let me first qualify that summer camp crosses the fiscal years. So the last 2 weeks in June landed in the first year report. There are actually 8 weeks of summer camp. So only 2 weeks of summer, pardon me, are going to be reflected in the first year report information that you will receive alongside City Council on the 12th. The other 6 weeks are in the fiscal year we're in right now and would be part of a year 2 report. But I can share with you that across those 8 weeks, some of them we had 3 sessions of camp, keeping in mind that we have capacity limits. And with ratios of adults to children, we had 16 campers to 2 instructors, to 2 adults in the room. And so 16 times, for some of the weeks, we had 3 sessions. And some of them we had to really pull back and could only have 2. And that was because of instructor availability.
Okay, so you had 2 to 3 classrooms full of about 16 kids times 8 weeks.
Correct.
And those were staff-instructed summer camps.
That was just in the staff-instructed camp. There were other camps that were led by contract instructors.
Right, and how many of those were there?
I don't have that data in my head.
Okay, and I was just wondering, and I don't need numbers, but is there like a substantial difference to the city in terms of revenue between the staff-taught summer camps and the instructor-taught? Like, is one substantially more than the other, or are they about the same?
I don't have that information prepared and available for you tonight. I can share with you that there were more campers who went through a staff-led camp than there were who went through a contract instructor-led arts camp.
Cool.
I can't speak to recreation. I'm only talking about art.
Is that
Right.
is that information that you can gather easily enough and share with us, even in December or via email?
I think so.
That'd be great.
So specifically, you want to know the comparison of contract instructor camps versus staff-led camps.
In terms of revenue, yeah, if there's a substantial difference between the two, and yeah, and how many were run by contract instructors, that would be interesting to know.
And also just getting a sense between the effort, the staff time involved, even when there's contract instructors, or putting in the administrative efforts to conduct camps that are not staff-led, just so that you can kind of have a snapshot look to be like, okay, here's two ways of holding camps. Maybe they're both generative of revenue, almost, just so that we can kind of wrap our minds around that.
There is data in the first year report that compares, it's a larger number, larger view on contract classes, staff versus
Awesome.
them.
Thank you. Do you mind talking a little bit about classes that were advertised but weren't able to run, what that process is, what percentage those were, like when that's decided, that kind of?
Sure. There's some data on that in the first year report, and classes get canceled for a number of reasons. One is failure to meet minimum enrollment, which is generally for students, for registrants, and that number plays a part, not just economics, but for younger kids. When we were in the very beginning, we were having some latitude on whether it was really hitting that number, just so that a class could run and we were getting to know people and people got to know the center. And we had a parent who was in a class of, I think, 3 kids, and it was not the social experience that the parent had wanted for their child and didn't want to be in the class because it wasn't what they had expected. So there's a scenario. Along the lines of recruitment and retention and competition and instructors leaving, we've had to cancel classes because an instructor, both staff and contract instructor, leave. And if we don't have someone who has that same experience and capability of teaching a class, we may need to just cancel it.
Okay.
And those decisions need to be made. We try and give it as much time as possible, and also being respectful of people's schedules. Around camp, it's a kind of a different story because we recognize this is what parents, it's not only enrichment for the kids, but we realize this is summer plans, and we take that very seriously. And when we have had a camp that was not going to run because it didn't meet minimum enrollment, we reached out to the parents and made the suggestion of another camp that we could put their kid in so that they were not left without their child having that opportunity. So it's generally a week-ish.
Okay, and then moving on to kind of facilities, I just have one question. Are all the classrooms equally used, or do some get used more than others?
That is addressed in the first year report.
Can you give us a hint? Do I have to wait? Okay, all right. Okay, registration then, is registration mainly online, or are there other venues for registering?
People can come and register in person.
So it's online or in person?
Yes, online or in person, and I would say the majority is online. For some people, they're at the center and they come in and do it, but it is primarily online.
Okay, thank you. Instructors, so I know the city works with some nonprofits who provide their instructors with insurance. Can you tell me a little bit about those partnerships?
Well, just to clarify, they're not partnerships. We have, going back to those two models of instruction, we have contract instructors and staff. And among the contract instructors, some of them are businesses that employ instructors, and some of them are just individuals, sole proprietors. And then among those who are businesses, some of them have a tax structure that is nonprofit, and some of them do not. So that is up to the contract instructor themselves. The city does not seek out one versus the other.
So these are just contract instructors coming in. They may be associated with the business. You guys have nothing to do with that.
So the contract instructor that comes in may be a business, or it may be an individual.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. Are there any other advantages? So I know the advantage to that for the instructors is that they don't have to cover their own insurance, that they're covered by an umbrella insurance. Are there other advantages either for the city or for the instructors to be part of a umbrella organization, nonprofit or for-profit?
So I would imagine that it is sort of an economy of scale kind of a thing, because when the contract instructor is a business, it's the business that has the insurance, and then they employ instructors. And so each individual person is not needing to go and get the business registration and go through, hold all of those things individually. Then that's their model.
Right. That's the insurance part of it. Are there other?
I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So and there's actually a graph for this in the first year report. There are two kinds, contract instructors and staff. And then among contract instructors, there are businesses. Well, they're all businesses, but there are some that are companies that employ people, and some are individual instructors. Both need to have insurance, both need to have business registration, but the advantage, the cost per person, I guess, could be less in the business side of things. But it's hard to know because they are all independent contractors and they run their own businesses.
So there's no direct advantage to the city in terms of whether it's a person just teaching, or if it's someone that's a business or part of a nonprofit. There's no advantage.
There's no financial. There's
Okay. Gotcha.
The split is the same. It's a 60% to the contract instructor, 40% to the city.
Okay.
So
Yeah, thank you. That
it's
answers it.
difficult to be able to answer that without having. Maybe
that's-
one or another might have some specifics that they could share.
Okay, thank you. No, that answered my question. So I'm nearing the end of my list. Can you tell us about the use of an MOU with partner organizations, like similar to what was used for the music series in the library? How could that model be used, for example, to lecture series?
So under current uses right now, it's not one of the permissible uses by right. So the model that we have is working with contract instructors. So making agreements, they let us know what they'd like to teach, and we find space for the appropriate room and set up registration. Registration runs through the city. So an MOU in a partnership is a different model. that was not one that was available to us when our initial direction had been to open it with uses that were permissible by right.
Okay, thank you. All right, marketing. What percent of residents versus non-residents take classes?
That information is in the first year report.
Okay. Can you talk about the reasons for charging non-residents higher rates?
I would need to consult on the official reason for that. I don't have that in my immediate availability.
Okay. Can you get back to us on that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I mean, I think you could guess, but I don't know for sure. But I will add that to my list.
Okay, talking about sort of demographics of people taking classes in camps, do you have any information on that?
That is also in the first year report.
Can you list the avenues the city is using for communications right now?
We don't have as many as would make sense, and there's just a lot of limitations, both budget and just accessibility. The city has one set of social media accounts, and we share those, and we have great support through the communications team in getting out as much as we possibly can and sharing with all the other important news that the city has. And then sending out regular email communications to those who have subscribed. And we run ads in local papers. The majority of our focus is on residents. There is some focus outside of that into our adjacent neighboring cities and to areas that kind of make sense because we've got access into other lists, and we put it over there, and they share the information with their members. So it is an area that with additional resources, we know it could benefit.
Okay, so social media and emails.
And ads.
And ads. Ads?
And then, of course, our
What kind of
activity
ads?
guide. Pardon?
I'm sorry, what kind of ads?
We are running in the Encinitas Advocate, in Encinitas Magazine, and then additionally in, I don't recall all the names of them, but the Solana Beach, Carlsbad, Del Mar, Oceanside, the community newspaper group. We buy a bundle and run less frequently, but do run in the neighboring newspapers as well.
Great. My final question. So you mentioned budget. Are there any other barriers that the city has to doing more marketing?
Budget is primarily it. It is resources, both financial and human.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's the end of my list of
Can I just jump in there just to add on to that line of questioning? It's just as far as the topic of marketing. So it's great. I don't think any of those are surprises as far as those avenues. I've seen lots of those ads, and it's always a challenge how to communicate with the public. What my question is more about a marketing strategy. Is there one, and what is it?
There is, and because we have limited resources, and the community the city of Encinitas is our primary focus, that is where we've started. There is always the hope to be able to do more, but right now we just don't have the resources to go beyond what we're doing.
And again, my question is less about what you're doing and more about maybe the philosophy behind the strategy. Like, how are you thinking about marketing? How are you thinking about how to communicate with the various demographics? And like, what's the vibe? Like, there's a mission and vision statement for Pacific
Sure.
View. I haven't seen that anywhere in any of the advertisements or even on the website. But that's more clear.
So we're very practical in what we're going at. We're going for awareness. Right now, we're really still struggling with the basics of people knowing that we're there. And later on, I was going to share in my cultural arts report on some events that we've done recently. When we meet people who live here and don't know it exists, we meet people who live far away and don't know who it exists. And that is one of the biggest hurdles. They can't know that they want to take a class here until they know we exist. So it's at the It's really at that foundational level. So where we started off being in one place, believing that the city, everybody knew we existed, and then really finding out they don't. I can have a conversation with someone at the street fair 2 blocks away, and where are you from? Where is it? We love this experience you're sharing. Where is this? Oh, it's 2 blocks over there. Really? Oh, we had no idea. So it's important that we meet our audience where they are, and they are not at the awareness level we had hoped.
I just had a quick question about marketing. I wondered, do you have volunteer opportunities for marketing, like flyer distribution, or if someone was tech savvy and could help update website pages or SEO or things like that?
Website pages, no, those are staff only.
Okay.
However, and I apologize, I probably didn't run through every single marketing thing we do, because as soon as you said that, I realized there are a lot of free community calendars, and that actually was an item on the commission's work plan for a long time, seeking volunteer help, getting it put in and all of those places, because that's just time.
Sure.
Going through and putting things in. So that 100% is a volunteer opportunity that I would love to tell you about.
And maybe flyer distribution too?
Flyer distribution, sure.
Okay, thank you.
So, Vicki, you were also on the ad hoc for Pacific View. Do you have questions?
I sure do. I think a lot of my questions are going to be revealed next Wednesday at the event. But I had a few questions that I put together, and I have emailed these to you, so hopefully you have some knowledge. How many classes are impacted by the room capacity limits? Is that a big issue?
It's not as big an issue as you might think, and often it presents a nice opportunity for the instructors to have the right kind of ratio depending upon what they're teaching. I do include a little bit more information on that in the first year report, but I can share with you it did not turn out to be the same kind of issue that some people thought that it might be. For some uses outside of instruction, it's different. Obviously, we can't hold performances there. We don't have capacity for an audience and things like that. But in terms of instruction, it has rarely been an issue.
Okay. Because one of my ideas was having like big lectures at the community center and then breakout sessions at Pacific View, which I thought would be really efficient, that you could learn all the conceptual kind of background. So in the future, that might be helpful thoughts.
One of the things that we had from the very beginning was knowing that we have the community room at the library, and if at any point something needed to move over, for example, camp, we moved over, we had our extended day over there. We've had some classes that wanted a performance, we didn't have the room, we put them in another spot. So that's 100% a way to address those kinds of things.
Okay, good. Understanding that there is a challenge hiring and retaining instructors, are exit interviews being done with the instructors when they leave the program? And what are the reasons for leaving the program?
The primary reason is compensation.
Okay.
And are exit interviews being done?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Can we receive a copy of that? Blinded? So that we wouldn't get the instructor names?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. And I think you already answered that participants are getting surveys. Do we have access to those surveys?
They are an attachment to the first year report.
Okay, so we'll get that next week. Is there a running list of programs that are being requested that are currently not being offered?
Yes.
Like a hit list of what we need, like you said, tap dancing.
Right. There is.
Line dancing.
Right. It's in the feedback, it's in there, and then we know it. We know what it is, so
So that's an opportunity to
Yes.
post or encourage us as, proponents for the arts, to encourage people specifically. So that's one avenue. If there's
Sure.
an unmet need, it might be helpful to get that list out, get that, as a hot list, like, instead of, I haven't seen anything like that. So that's interesting. Have any schools approached you regarding using or renting the classrooms?
not that come to mind. I don't want to say no definitively. We've had requests from churches and a couple of other things, primarily after the direction to add that item onto your work plan that kind of shook up the system, and people thought, oh my gosh, all of a sudden Pacific View is shutting down.
Okay.
There is on our future plans list to be doing outreach to homeschool organizations and charter schools so that we can start to develop those relationships. And that is one of the next areas that we're planning to move.
Okay, so I'm assuming you don't have like a kind of a sheet, like a financial model that could be given to potential schools saying, this would be like a rate sheet for if we wanted to use it, because we haven't really explored that yet? Or do we have something like that?
That's not currently a permissible use because that would make it private versus public.
So schools could not rent out a room?
Not currently.
What would it take to get additions and amendments to the permissible uses for Pacific View?
I don't have those answers, and we are currently seeking those answers.
Okay. Are there any limits on the operating hours of the facility?
Not that I know of, but I would imagine it would be around too late or too early and disturb the neighbors, but I have not been given specific.
Okay, probably like
Hours.
7 a.m. till 10 p.m. or something like that.
I'm-
We don't know, okay. When an instructor is sick, is the class rescheduled or the people get a partial refund?
So I did address this, and if a contract instructor misses a class, often it is a prorated refund. If a staff instructor needs to miss a class, if we are able to, we can put in a substitute if we have another staff instructor who is able to teach what that instructor was teaching.
Okay, and if it's a staff instructor and you haven't been able to fill it, they get a prorated refund?
They would get a refund.
Okay. I know when I was going to college, I was taking these classes, it was $200 a session, and I'm like, when I missed a session, I was pissed at myself. Okay, I think I'm running out of questions, but would running a full lineup of programs every day enable the center to be cash flow positive or neutral, or would it still be a deficit?
It's difficult to know because each class has a different price. Certainly, the more classes that are offered in a day, would be better, for sure. But it's difficult to make a blanket statement.
Do we know how much the council is looking for, like the delta in what we're getting now and spending versus the goal?
The cost recovery, I do not have that information, and that might be something that is discussed on the 12th.
Okay, so we don't know how much cost we're intended to recover yet.
I am not aware.
Okay.
Our original goals were to get the center operational using permissible uses by right.
Yeah, and now we've got new goals. All right, well, that's all from me. Thank you.
Again,
Of
just
course.
related to cost recovery, since Pacific View was directed to use the same operating model as the community center, and that's what it is doing, will the report include some information on cost recovery for the community center and other like city buildings?
The report does not include that, and I can look into what that information is.
Could it be included?
The report's already, I can certainly look
Okay.
at whether that could be included into the presentation.
I think that would just be interesting because I have not heard any specific numbers be shared or percentages be shared or really a clarity around what that ask is or expectation. And I understand that Pacific View is a very unique city building. It has different constraints and opportunities that those constraints allows it to have. But it's always good to understand, what's apples, what oranges, and what's apples and apples.
Sure.
Thank you. I have one other question, but I want other commissioners to ask first.
Yeah, I had a quick question. I think this falls generally under the umbrella of marketing. And I don't know if this is something, it may have been talked about in the past, but you were talking about awareness being a big issue. And I feel as though when I, walk over to the site to PVAC from 101, as you say, it's just a one block away, but it's such a different vibe from the bustle of Coast Highway to
Sure.
Side Street. And has there been talk about signage on 101 itself? Is that a possibility? People might at least be curious if they saw a sign or.
I'm not sure if you've ever seen any of the wayfinding signs that direct towards beach or different things. They're in a couple of different places. And I have inquired about getting Pacific View added to those. So I'm hopeful that can be something.
Okay.
And then signage on the property itself is something I really pushed for when the center was going through renovations. And we ran out of money. There just was not the money to support that. I have plans for them. We have materials for them. And in the interim, we may be looking to do something a little still effective, but not quite as permanent with some banners and things. There's just a few obstacles. So being able to get up to the coming north on 3rd Street, when you hit the south end of the campus, it's really quite elevated. And we initially thought, it's going to be easy. We're going to hang banners up there. And the very first set that we did proved to be a little bit more dangerous than we had hoped for. And then down on the north corner, it's just not as much space, and we didn't really have anywhere to hang it from. But people knowing that we're there is a big deal, and I have been working on solutions, both permanent and interim.
That's great to hear. I know 101 being the high traffic area would be great, but obviously there are limitations in terms of there need to be traffic signs that people don't miss because they see a Pacific View sign.
Yeah, I think us getting added onto those wayfinding signs that are around is likely what we could accomplish. I don't know that I'd be able to get anything in addition to that.
Okay,
But the ask is out there.
great. Thank you.
Just to follow up to that, what about temporary signage? Maybe like sandwich board type of signage?
We're working on a variety of temporary. That one's not, those are expensive and they disappear.
Got it. Okay.
People like them for their personal use.
I have a couple questions, if I may. Thanks. I was wondering about, let's see, will you be able to present some data on maybe perhaps age groups of individuals or participants who've patroned classes minus camps, summer camps, and so data of age groups, per block of time of day. For example, like from 8 to 10, we have 8 to 10 a.m. We have the majority of such and such age group, or more specific, I don't know, 8 to 2. How about that? 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. type of thing, Does that make sense?
It does, and I don't have it that granular. We have included the demographics, the age demographics who have signed up for programs, not to the level of time of day.
Okay. Would that be interesting to find out, though?
It's some of it is rather, I don't want to say obvious, but for example, on a weekday, we're not going to have a lot of kids between the ages of 6 and 18. They're in school. We're going to have a lot more of them from 3 o'clock or so on a weekday, and then on the weekends. It's our older adults who have the majority of free time. Many of them are retired, and that is our largest audience, is adults, older adults. And working adults have a little bit more availability later in the day. So some of it, while it might be, it's so minimal, the kind of time we'd have to spend to really pull that out, I think is better spent in other places. Because we generally know, based on availability, when those age groups can go. Like tots, anyone who's ever had one knows there's nap in the middle of the day, and you catch them early. So we work on things like best practices.
I was wondering also about how the classes are differentiated between those that are offered at PVAC and the recreation center. How does the city determine if a class is going to be there or if it's going to be up on Ballore?
Are you talking about arts classes or the differentiation between arts and recreation?
Arts. Well, I thought I've seen some arts classes at the recreation center.
There are some. We do have some dance classes primarily that are larger. So when I was saying it's primarily not a big deal, there were some that already existed that either have larger numbers and or they are offered on days of the week and or times of day that don't work at Pacific View. For example, a dance class on a Monday night can't be held at Pacific View. Pacific View is not open on Mondays. And then we have a small percentage of dance instruction that happens at the recreation center because they have a sprung dance floor and Pacific View does not. And that is their preference for safety reasons.
I think that's about it. I was wondering, about the compensation. You had mentioned that some of the reasons why some people might have left or was due to compensation. Would that ever be reconsidered to look at again to see or adjusted in the future?
That is outside our sphere of influence and could be something that City Council might choose to address, but that is not something I have any control over.
Where is that? Where does that information live? Like, what policy guides, if a policy or in the general plan, like what policy guides what the split could be or how much you could charge for a class? Like, does that? You're saying that exists?
No. So there are salary tables, and I believe they are on our human resources page. And there are generally two kinds of staff. One are full-time equivalent, and the other are what are classified as temporary, part-time, seasonal. And they come both with compensation hourly rate caps that are set, as well as a maximum number of hours that they can work within a fiscal year. And for the most part, they are capped at 999 hours, not to exceed 999 hours. So that's kind of like a half-time person. If you think about the average is about 2,080 hours. So for some people that works well and it fits into what they are looking for. And for others who are looking for full-time employment, we can't offer it. And we cap off at $23.39 an hour for that position.
Part of that is just like state mandates and council decision also. This is me speaking totally out of my wheelhouse, but I'm curious to how those things are decided. Everyone sitting here could probably inform me
Sure.
much more.
I'm certainly not going to pretend like I know all the details on it. I know City Council makes a lot of decisions, and I would be happy to go gather information on the specificity of the temporary, part-time, seasonal staff. But it is my understanding that it is governed by City Council.
Thank you. All right, and I just have two more questions, both about. I just want to thank you. It's never, you guys are just heads down, like hands in, running, doing all of this, and so it's always whenever there's that this doesn't even come close to due diligence in that sense, but whenever you have eyes on of people who are not in it, it can be so annoying and hard because there's so many things that you've already tried and thought of and all this sort of stuff. So I just thank you for fielding. And with that said, you've mentioned future plans a few times. Will your future plan for Pacific View for the next year, for the next 3 to 5 years, be included in this report?
There's a section called Year 2, and it's not necessarily this is, we're going to accomplish this here and this here. We are restricted by resources to do things. We can have all the good ideas. We can have all the smart plans. And if I don't have enough people, if I don't have enough hours in the day, we can't do them. So I start off with plans, and then it just depends what we can accomplish based on the resources we have.
Okay, so there's no iteration, like that you're in stage 1 now, and in stage 2, this is what we hope to achieve, because in talking about financials and understanding, that what kind of money needs to be raised or what kind of fundraising could be done, those are all things, money could change all of that. So as long as it's laid out as to what the, immediate needs are, the hopeful needs and the awesome needs, that can make things happen.
Sure. And keep in mind, our direction was get it open. Run using uses permissible by right, and any other direction we have not yet received.
I completely understand that. I'm just wondering if there's, again, you've mentioned future plans, if there's just a roadmap of where it could go from here.
It's a really robust list that is included in the report, but it's not, some of them we've actually already started, and some of them I know are reach goals to attain, but I want them out there just in case the right opportunity comes up, as we're thinking about, if a grant came up for this one particular thing. For example, when I was in Sacramento in April, for the Californians for the Arts Conference, there was a group that came and spoke about getting an organized pre-apprenticeship program. And they were speaking specifically to the film industry and to a certain extent the music industry, where getting apprentices in, they were coming in with inconsistent training. And what they wanted was to develop everybody agree, this is the stuff they need to know. This is what they need before they come to us. And in LA, they've got these programs. They're working with schools, and they're saying, this is the curriculum. These are the guidelines. We want people to have these, and if they complete this instruction, then we can give a path into an apprenticeship. So I talked to them and said, we could potentially be one of those sites. Would love to meet with you. They are a nonprofit. They are running into capacity issues. And so we've had one conversation and then figuring out how to be able to work our way in. Combination of their lack of resources and our lack of resources, we're not there yet. But that is a perfect opportunity that if we could do that, that's we know that there's an audience who wants that. We know there's a path that exists to put those people from our program, our potential new program, into apprenticeship.
Yeah, I mean, so many possibilities and ideas abound.
Yeah, that's
Sorry, I'm
one
losing
one
my words now.
example.
But and all ideas bump into reality and then are shaped and made beautiful by those realities too. But so I think what I'm hearing is that no, a roadmap will not be included in this presentation.
That is correct.
Okay. And then what was my one other? To my earlier point, as far as kind of buffing off frustrations, there have been, Pacific View has been such a long a long road that so many people have worked on and made happen and everything like that. Is there an ongoing list of ideas that have come through the city, to staff that have been tried, said, okay, well, these are the constraints, this is why that can't move forward, or this is what's been tried and it has worked and gone on this way, or failed? And is there any running tally that the public can have eyes on so that it's not this constant coming back to, that feeling of like, my God, I've heard this before 2 years ago, and yes, we've thought, but that's a really, as far as institutional memory and
Sure.
community memory and in that ability to move forward effectively, something like that, does anything like that exist?
Not currently, and at the same time, just because something didn't work in one way, in the incarnation it came in at that point in time, doesn't mean that it can't work later. Absolutely. But also, no, that list does not exist as a forward-facing document.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that would take no time to put together.
No, let me just run back and print it for
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Any other things and questions, comments? So, one more, just during the joint meeting, I've never participated in a joint meeting with council. Is there public comment at that meeting as well?
I'm certain that there will be, and as I shared with you, that I want to make sure I get a good understanding for you of where the commission will sit, and so that your expectations, you understand what they are and know what's happening.
Thank you. So we'll look forward to hearing that. And I encourage anyone listening at home or here tonight to attend November 12th. I can't wait to hear that report. I know that so much work and effort has gone into, gathering that information and then putting it together. So
I have one question. Will we be given that report to take home with us, or a physical copy of it, or at least an access to it online?
It's part of the report that will be published, my guess is by Wednesday.
Okay, so before the meeting, we can look through it?
Yes.
Okay.
if you go to city webs and agendas, it would be attached on our agenda just like any other meeting. So
Okay.
that's awesome that potentially this Wednesday.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so we will move on. While we're between topics here, let's go ahead and make a motion to extend the meeting to 7:30.
I can second, or, yeah.
Motion to extend the meeting to 7:30?
Thank you. All right.
Let the record show that the motion passes with all commissioners voting yes, except Commissioner Kadakia, who is absent.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we will move on to 1B. And I see a few people who were at the public workshop last month, and I just want to thank the public who came, the staff, commissioners. I think it was a really successful workshop, and I think the biggest takeaway is just how to, enthusiastically engage with the public and to be kind of that first interface, and also have that interface be generative and not just on public record. No, I shouldn't say just on public record. Only on public record. So let's see. Just trying to move everything along here.
Can I
Yeah,
say something
Carla,
to that?
do you have a recap as far as, it'd be good to summarize of what all of the work that went on about the goals. So sorry, everyone, need to eat a few chips. The workshop was about brainstorming ideas for goals that could be added, that could be recommended to City Council to generate a list of goals and policies that would, that are arts and cultural related, to add to the general plan. Whether that is about us recommending that those be part of their own arts element to be included in the general plan, or whether those things get put in to places where relevant places in the plan. That's future work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so after the public brainstorm session, I organized what we heard from the community into 7 kind of, I'm going to call them themes, but I guess you could call them goals or values or kind of broad priorities. And they weren't able to be attached to the agenda, so unfortunately. So I will read them, but I will be brief. So the first one, the first kind of, like I said, overall kind of broad priority theme would be to promote arts education, access, and lifelong learning. So we heard a lot about this from the public that was at our group, the importance of building public understanding of how the arts enhance everyday life. And also collaborations was mentioned a lot. So collaborations, strengthening collaborations among schools and community groups. The second main kind of goal that we heard, or that I'm grouping things under, is strengthen arts funding and local economy through arts and culture. So this came up often during our session. People kind of recognize that investing in the arts also supports local economies. Third was celebrate the full range of artistic expression and kind of local culture. So this is in a lot of different ways. One, being different types of art, so visual, performing, film, literature. One is kind of celebrating what's unique about our community. A bunch of things came up, surfing, skating, flower capital, a bunch of other things came up as well. And then also diversity just in types of styles, so going kind of beyond what our traditional imagery is, and including other types of styles in that. The fourth one, sustaining the city's arts and cultural facilities, so wanting to ensure that these important spaces remain active and accessible to the public. Number 5, enable artists to thrive, so supporting opportunities for artists to learn and to teach and to share their work. 6, enhance accessibility to the arts. So obviously supporting free and accessible art programs, and also addressing barriers of participation. So if that's transportation or affordability or communication or even program design. And then number 7, promote arts-informed governance. That came up as well. So encourage a culture within local government that values and understands arts as an essential and kind of ongoing part of community well-being. So I suppose with that overview, I would like to propose that we form an ad hoc to continue working on the arts element. And I would also like to suggest that we schedule a second public meeting, similar to the first one, with breakout groups. And the goal for that one would be, again, to hear from the community about ideas within each of these broader groups, ideas that could help guide future decisions and move us towards achieving them. And so, yeah, I guess to that, I wanted to ask staff if you could possibly look into possible dates in January. I think December is probably not a great month to do that, but maybe January outside of our regular meeting when the workshop could take place.
That's great. I actually mentioned that to Colette too, which is cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and before we ask about a date for that, Colette suggested, are there any nights of a week that you know in January that won't work, or any dates, so that we can just get rid of those to begin with to make her life easier in finding those?
You just have to
is
keep in
generally
mind,
are people around in January?
right, and space is just limited, and so rather than me putting hold on, if there was a way to narrow down where we know your availability is,
I would say, for me,
you've got to make quorum.
the beginning of January is a little bit harder, so I would say anytime, I mean, definitely after the 7th, 8th, 9th, I'm pretty available.
Anybody else with constraints? No. Okay. And again, I think,
I would say if it could be in the evening, like it was before.
yeah, no, for sure in the evening. I think my thoughts about having it during our regular meeting, well, it works so well as far as staff time and all of our times, and I'm open to it for sure. There's just so much in each one of our meetings that skipping another month where we're not moving along, and also it comes pretty close to when we're going to be discussing work plan and kind of everything that's happened in the past year and how we want the future year to look. And so missing that January meeting is just makes me nervous. So if we can find something, that would be awesome. And if not, then potentially we could do it in January. We could even do it maybe in February at our regular meeting, but again, that runs into that same problem. So anyway, I think just checking in back in December about that, and then we can decide then. Thank you.
Just a question for Commissioner Romer. Can you send that as a no reply to us?
Can I?
The summary, or is there a way we can access?
Yeah, now it's on public record, so you can just.
So I can email the group?
Yeah, or email it.
Send it to me,
Okay.
and I can send it as an information item.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that overview. That was awesome. Did anyone hear anything that was missing or that should be noted? I didn't, but I think the only thing, I don't even.
Did you mention venues? I think it was touched upon there, but that was one of the facilities. I guess that was the word. Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, I understand that those are, like I said, very broad goals. So enabling artists to thrive is so general, and that I think that's what we would be talking about in the next meeting, is trying to really kind of flesh that out and try to find, things that we can add to that to make those goals achievable.
For sure, and examples under each. I was actually surprised to hear a percentage for the arts mentioned by so many different voices in the room that night. And so, that's just like one example underneath one of those first goal headings, not even goals, but.
Question, if may. So for another meeting like January or whenever, would we take these goals and then kind of like break them down into policies or something? Or
I think what I heard Carla say, and let me just talk about what I was thinking about when I was thinking about another special meeting, a workshop in a similar manner that focuses now not on goals. Like we got that public input. I think we can run with that and always bring it back to the public once it's more beefed out. What I would envision is working in the same manner around policy.
Policies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, I clicked it wrong. But yeah, like you said, policies that can kind of move us towards achieving the goals.
So is the goal of the ad hoc then, moving forward, to draft an arts element? Is that its purpose?
I would not recommend that we draft an arts element. I think at this point, again, we are in the the ask is to make a recommendation of potential goals and policies. So how we move forward is kind of up to us. I think the next steps are to beef out the goals, hold a workshop for policies, beef out those policies, and then touch base with council from there.
And just to assuage any concerns, you're not being asked to draft policy. You're just being asked to make recommendations on what policies.
Right, yeah, none of us have the language or the skills, I don't believe, I don't mean to assume, to do that. So I would think that an ad hoc would work on the goals, be fleshing those out, plan a policy workshop, and then after review and summarize the policy public workshop, and then continue to work to flesh out a recommendation to bring back to the entire commission that then we could bring back to council and ask for further direction, or decide what our recommendations should be.
Okay, thank you.
So the ad hoc that planned the goal workshop was only for that. So now I'd like to move forward with forming this next ad hoc. I know all of us have actually thought pretty deeply about all of this. I'm happy to continue working on it. And Carla, are you?
Yeah, I'll continue, yeah.
And
I was planning to continue as well.
okay, and I just want to check in because you went on the ad hoc last time with the understanding that your time was extremely limited, which I think was appropriate for that ad hoc. For this ad hoc, I'd say it's a pretty big ask. So I just want to check in with your availability.
As far as I know, I should have a little more time to spend on
Yay.
it. But if you, I'd open it up to others too. If someone has more dedicated time.
No, I mean, I do want to just make sure, does anyone else have a burning need to be on this ad hoc or want to hop in here? I don't know. Jennifer.
I would be interested if Commissioner Fader would not be able to, or I don't know how that would work out. Is some kind of alternate, or I don't know.
I don't think ad hocs can have alternates because, again, once three of us have worked on an item that's ongoing, that would be a violation of the Brown Act. I would say, hearing that your time has opened up, then let's form that ad hoc because I do hear that commitment is available.
Okay.
Would you please summarize what the goal of this ad, just because the last one was so specific, would you outline the purpose of this one?
Yeah, do you want me to do it in the form of a motion so that it gets in there?
That would be great. Thank
Okay,
you.
I will make a motion to form an ad hoc for, under the council-directed item to recommend goals and policies for the arts. I don't have whatever number that is.
13, I think.
Thank you. To work on, do you want me to, before I make a motion, I think I went through what it's all about. Work on a list of goals, flesh those goals out, right? So I'm not going to include all of that in the motion, but
Can we just say to work on that?
to work on that item, which includes planning a workshop on policy, and then coming, just like any other work plan item that an ad hoc is formed on.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, this one would be working on the goals and policies and preparing the recommendations for discussion with the commission that would lead to the recommendations to council?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not got the narrow specificity.
No, it's a broad specificity that
Got it.
includes another workshop planning, as well as other things. Okay, so I will go ahead and make that motion. That was very messy, wasn't it? You're welcome, Jamie.
I can second that motion.
Do you need that language more straightforward?
I think I can listen to it and I think I have it.
Okay. Okay.
Let the record show that the motion to form an ad hoc committee Passes with all commissioners voting yes, except Commissioner Kadakia, who is absent.
And
Thank
just to
you.
clarify, was that Commissioners Fox, Romer, and Fader?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to action item 8B2, review the updated sculpture loan program details and timeline. Yay, right? I think congratulations is in order that council received our recommendation and moved forward to accept it. And just to be clear, while it's wonderful to see any recommendations accepted, my congratulations isn't really about that. It's more about the work that you did so that council could have all of the information that they needed to make a good decision. And I do think it's just so important that council can be well informed and able to make decisions that serve our entire community. So to be able to have this as an example of the work that we can do was good. All right, so an update from the October 22nd City Council meeting. Essentially, I think I just said that. We toughed it out till, I think we were invited up at 11:20. Yeah.
It's pretty close. PM.
So, and that comes after over a year of work and then being put on the schedule and then being postponed and then being invited on. And Dave and Colette, I think that was the only item that they were here for as well. So we were not asked to give the presentation, which was understandable at that time of night and also understandable from that feeling that council had spent time with the slides and understood them. Then a discussion occurred. I lost confidence that council did actually spend that time with the slides in the depth that they could have. And yet we were able to have a very short conversation, and then it was accepted. So that was really great. Sorry, Colette saved me with macadamia nuts because I didn't eat dinner, and I don't think ever in my life I forget to eat, but today is another one of those times, so bear with me.
I have more in my office right now.
We only have till 7:30. I can handle it.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you guys for doing that. I really appreciate that. I don't know if I would have stayed there until 11:20. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and that, I sent an email, but, that was a one-off, and I was happy to do it. And I just want to appreciate staff again, because that is not a one-off. Like, so much of their time has to be dedicated to instances like that, and that's time that is that adds up and has consequence. So I really appreciate that. And also, it's really cool to see this timeline and the recap of the program. I do think that the program has gotten so much better. I'm really excited about the artist participation and the public input. And it was cool to see the creativity by staff already in how to apply those recommendations to getting the finalist sculpture, like photographs, large scale of the sculptures that will be chosen by the jury, out in front of the public in varied ways and over multiple dates. So I really appreciate that. Do you want to talk through that timeline, or?
If you have any questions, I think just in the interest of time, maybe I'll answer questions. I will share that we looked at this, the duration of the artist call. We took the information from prior artist calls into consideration and what we have heard from those artists and what they would appreciate. And because we already run a visual art artist call for our rotating exhibitions, the two are going to run in tandem, which is going to economize our efforts. We're basically reaching, it's a lot of the same work. It's not necessarily the same artists, but when we reach out beyond our individual contacts, we're reaching out to art organizations, to artist guilds that are comprised of two-dimensional and three-dimensional large-scale public art and so on. And so by going out to those organizations with 2 artist calls instead of doing it twice, it's a lot more impactful. So that really helped to inform how we came up with the schedule. And it lines up really well. There was a little method to my madness in coming up with the date that I suggested be when the existing ones, so that they all terminate on the same time. So this gets us in line with fiscal years, with times of year that we think it's going to be easy to install, deinstall artwork, just a lot of things to work well with the artists we're talking to and enable staff to do more than we might be able to if we were doing this in kind of a disjointed way. And then I will share one last thing. At the end of the schedule, as we get up to where so the commission's recommendation to council, we're looking for that to happen in December. And then it looks like there's a whole bunch of time. That's my slush fund. So that's going to allow for potentially meetings to need to get pushed because of a really busy council agenda, for weather variances, for artist availability. So that's kind of why it might look like there's a little bit more there.
It makes so much sense. I think that's very smart. Do we want to put that up on so that people can see?
Yes, just one moment,
Thank you.
please. And this is attached to the agenda. If anyone wants to go back and look at it later online, this is one of the attachments in the agenda. So we're basically going to start this process in April next year.
And then maybe just scroll through so that it's on, if anyone watching the meeting from home and isn't looking directly at the agenda, great.
Yeah, so April 1st we open it. The deadline would be it's been a long day, August 31st. And then forming the jury panel. I list a number of opportunities that I'm aware of. If there are other opportunities throughout the year for us to do this, we will. These are just ones that are on our calendar right now. And of course, I put that note at the end, subject to change, because if any of these change, we'll adjust. And then at the commission's December meeting is when we would hope that you would be able to take all of that data into consideration and make your recommendation. And then the plan would be to go to council in January to get their vote of acceptance, and then move into contracts with artists in February, and give us April and May to do the deinstall, deinstall. And that also is the best economy. So if the installer's coming out once, deinstalling the existing sculpture and installing the new one, that is less expensive than coming out in 2 visits.
Great. Okay, we'll move on unless anyone has any comments. Nope. Okay, so we'll move on to item 8B3, which is to discuss the recommendation of the public art sculpture from the Encinitas Friends of the Art by artist Deanne Sabeck, and potentially collect some public input. Are there any speakers to this? No. Okay. So it is, of course, fitting to be talking about this right after the sculpture loan program because it's a very related item. In September, the commission voted to recommend that the city accept the donation of Luminous Wave from Encinitas Friends of the Arts. And we also made discussion points about the fact that it is sitting on a pedestal that is part of the sculpture loan. It is part of the sculpture loan program right now. So that's kind of straddling too. Just to clarify and kind of put it out there that tonight's discussion is not about the artistic merits of that piece, nor about the value of any particular artwork that could be or might be donated to the city. And so I'll open it up again down the line, and then I do have some comments to make at the end.
I'll start, if that's okay. Yeah, so I wasn't at the September meeting. I did watch the video, and I've given it a lot of thought. And first off, I am absolutely thrilled that about the offer for the sculpture to be purchased and donated. It's a very well-loved piece, and I'm super happy to see the intentions of the sculpture loan program being fulfilled to support local artists by promoting their work and by bringing more art into our public places. I also know that the sculpture loan program, the development of that took quite some time, and that the sculpture loan program pads were more complex and expensive than I think originally anticipated. Given all that, it doesn't appear likely that the city is going to be funding additional sculpture pads in the future. So what that means, thinking this through, is that if the donated sculpture remains on the existing sculpture loan program pad, which I think was what was recommended, it would effectively prevent future artists from exhibiting their work in Cardiff. The opportunity for artists from Cardiff to display work in their neighborhoods and to potentially have their work, purchased by their immediate community would be eliminated. I know that there are other sites available, but many artists, first off, I think they value being represented in their own community, and I know that this site in particular is heavily trafficked and also widely visible. So I think that it's been a preferred location for many artists, both local and non-local, and it's been expressed often as a kind of favored location for artist sculptures. Additionally, by leaving this sculpture there, it would mean that the neighborhood would lose the benefit of experiencing a rotating group or rotating display of new artwork. I actually went back and listened to the Art Commission meeting from February 2018 when the pedestal sites were being discussed, and I heard that the goal was always to have a pedestal in each of the 5 communities. So then kind of thinking about this a little bit more, kind of thinking about what it means to allow a sculpture to stay permanently on a pedestal that was intended for the sculpture loan program. It is possible for one or two or even all of the other artists that are currently in this rotation that have artwork in the pedestals to donate their artwork to be permanently displayed on the pedestals that were intended for the sculpture loan program. So if that were the case, what that would mean is that the sculpture loan program, the way it was originally intended, would effectively come to an end. So for all of those reasons, I do fully support accepting the sculpture as a donation, but I don't support placing it permanently on the sculpture loan program pad, which was built by the city and intended for ongoing use by new artists in future rotations. And again, thank you, Katie, but I also want to emphasize that this has nothing to do with the kind of the quality or the value of this artwork itself. I'm kind of more concerned about maintaining fairness and just ensuring that the program continues and continues to provide opportunities for different artists and different communities. My final point is that I know there was discussion about raising funds for a new pad, which I think that would be very exciting and it would be a great solution. But I also want to mention that timing is an important factor. I think it's important to continue the next rotation of the program at all of the sites. And so if a new pad is created before the next rotation, a new pad is created for this program in Cardiff before the next rotation, then I would be okay with letting the sculpture stay at that location. But if the new pad is not created in time, I think it would need to leave to make room for the next rotation, if that makes sense.
Can I just ask a couple clarifying questions? As far as the sculpture loan program is concerned, are there plans to install additional pads?
When this program was planned, the intention was that additional pads would be placed. So as needed, as one got donated and acquired, that more would be put down. That was before the first 5 had been poured, and that process had happened. And it then became clear that identifying locations that were suitable, that were visible, was not as easy as the original plan had been. And there is not money currently budgeted. That doesn't mean that it can't be requested, but it was a lot more than it was anticipated back in, was it 2017-ish? So there's a big question mark hanging over that. And that was one of the things in the presentation, was a point of future concern, and what happens with that. And I think that should probably be taken into consideration in the commission's recommendation as it relates to accepting this sculpture. It's also possible that the sculpture does not require a pad. We could look into that. The program was designed to make it so that it was easy. If they fell into these height, weight, wind shear categories, you pop it on, pop it off. Already I can tell you that is not what happened in the first round. It was not as drag and drop as the program had anticipated to be. And then council approved a 6th site that has no pedestal at all at Pacific View. And it just so happened that the sculpture that was recommended works. It can sit there, it's anchored, it's very lightweight, and it's safe. For the next round, I'm going to need to go get a little bit more information, because we're going to be coming at it from a different way. This time we said, we have a site, what do we have that we can put there? In the next round, we're going to be saying, we have a site, here's what it can support. So, have I answered your question? Or just giving you more?
No, that answers it. Thank you.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, because I want to understand your concerns about this, and one of them I think was that accepting this donation for this particular site could set a precedent for the other sites to have donations that become permanent installations.
Well, yeah, I think if we kind of accept that, if we accept a donation and allow it to stay at one of the sites, I don't see why if another donation comes in, I don't think we can have rules for one artist and a different rule for another artist.
Right.
I mean, we can still decide if we choose to accept that donation that comes through the commission, but if another artist decides to donate their work to stay there permanently, we're basically opening that. We're saying that's a possibility.
Yeah, I understand. I wonder, this seemed kind of a specific situation in that EFA took the initiative to purchase this and donate it. So.
Right, and that's true. Artists could donate their work just directly, though, and also ultimately artists decide on the price of their artwork, so it could also,
Yeah.
I
Okay,
just wanted
thank
to
you.
point out one thing in the application. It just says that if it is for a restricted donation, explain the terms, and then it just says the sculpture purchase is to remain in Cardiff by the sea. I assume that doesn't mean it has to be on that pedestal pad.
It's just important to note that as part of, under the public art policy, if while anyone may offer a donation, it is the city that determines the placement and the location of that donation. So it's absolutely up to the donor if they, there's no guarantee until council deems a location of where it sits. So if a donor is, in this case, if the EFA and or Deanne decide that the only place that they want that sculpture to be is that plinth, or maybe plinth is the wrong word, pedestal, we really want the donation to happen, but there's no guarantee of that, so that's their choice. And so that's just part of this, again, is that it's our responsibility to gather public input, which I don't really think has happened in this case yet for this specific item, to come up with our own recommendations, and staff will come up with their own recommendations, and then it's city council, and that's how a decision is made about location.
Just to be clear, staff does not make recommendations. We can give you information, but we will not make a recommendation.
To council, I'm saying. Okay. So staff will give a report to council. Excuse me. Thank you. I have more to say, but I want to give the opportunity first.
I think that was my concern when we were receiving the proposal from NIME, and that was kind of, I asked her to put in to replace the sculpture pad, and she said, oh, we can absolutely do it, but it was kind of separated from this proposal. So I think we don't want to lose the art pad, and we want one in Cardiff. And I think we do need to cement the details and make sure that Cardiff doesn't lose the opportunity for a site for rotating sculptures. And I think that this is a fabulous sculpture that I would fight to try and keep. So, I'd be willing to look at opportunities in Cardiff and other locations where we can have the sculpture pad for, I'd be open to either one, having, as long as there were 2 sculpture pads in Cardiff, that I wouldn't be picky about which one has which sculpture on it. And I think that the sculpture donation was specific to this site. But then, as Robin has mentioned, it isn't specifically stated that. And so maybe there is a little bit of wiggle room. But Carla's observations were well received. And I think that when you set a precedent, you have to be careful, because then you have to treat everybody equal, and we do need to address this before we can receive the generous donation.
Yeah, I appreciate Carla's analysis of all that. That just made me think a little deeper, because I love the piece. I would put it in my backyard, but the fact that it was planned to keep it where it is, or in that particular site, or on that pad, or in Cardiff, is concerning, because that means that the surrounding, the community there, I'm sure a lot of people will love it too, but that means that it's going to be there for an indefinite amount of time. And that means that something else might not be, something else that might come along that's also beautiful would not have a chance to be displayed there, if it was. And these pads have been designated, I guess, have they been just specifically, going back to 2018, they were specifically designated for the rotating, is that correct?
They were designated for the program, but not necessarily that they could never hold a permanent sculpture. There were 5 initially put in, and the original plan had included putting more in as needed. And when it's not even the expense is a thing, but it was the ability to find sites that the city could put one For example, that one in Cardiff is not on city property. So there had to be a fair amount of work done to secure the right to have it in to be able to have access, to have it be in someone else's right of way. So there were just not as many city-owned locations that were suitable for a pedestal.
Well, that's very interesting that you said that, because it's not on city property, and there was a big, sounded like a big process involved. And so this is a slippery slope, I think.
And I don't say that to discourage you, it's just the way the program was planned, and then going through the program, the commission learned a lot about, here was the ideal, here was the plan, and then once executed, things did not go to plan as exactly they had hoped, nor was the cost as inexpensive as they had hoped. So that really informed the reality of the future. And that doesn't mean we don't get money, and if someone like EFA wanted to donate it, then that makes it even easier. Of course, if funding comes with it, it's always easier.
Is there a list of sites that were being considered, or potential sites yet of other places, just as far as a public art site, or
There
from
is a
that time?
list. There is a list of some sites. Like there's one that I can think of that's in Lucadia, like new art node spaces through Streetscape, and there are a couple of other, pardon me, a couple of other spots that I can think of. And it is highly likely that the research done in these first 5 exists. I just have not had my eyeballs on it. I was on the commission at the time, I just was not on that ad hoc, so I don't have all that one cemented in the memory bank.
When I went back to try to find information about this, I think it was February 5th, 2018. You can't watch it, but you can listen to it. And I think they were reviewing potential sites for all 5 communities. And the second potential site in Cardiff, was across the street from Patagonia. Do you know anything about that? Do you remember?
Is that the one in the Harbaugh Parkway?
I don't know. What do you mean?
I am happy to look into what that was.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Well, could the city create I guess the commission would have to create a policy or something for things like that are donated, like large scale things like that, that there would be a designated place for them to be, like some kind of part on this city properties, the existing ones, like the PVAC and the rec center properties, and that would be a little bit safer, because in terms of that's where you have, it could be taken care of and watched a little more carefully. I'm just thinking of possibilities, because that means that you would have to get surveys or input from the community, and also the potential of getting, making another site, and then there's a big, huge process, and I don't know if we're ready for it.
Well, I think there's a lot of thought to be done on that, but I think in bringing it back to this specific donation and moving forward, I have a few more points just to add to that discussion, if that's, yeah.
Sure.
One is also just to remind everyone that this piece was juried in as a temporary piece. So that was a big part of how that program was advertised. It was a big part of how it was, the rubric was made, and even now with the new rubric, it's been emphasized and re-emphasized that one of the beauties of this program, and also one of the things that makes it kind of easy to welcome so many different kinds of pieces, is that it's a rotating program. And I think that's just a point that needs to be made. Let's see. I started coming up with language around making an amendment to our recommendation. I don't think that that should happen tonight. I think we want the public to be able to weigh in a little bit more, just so that we can hand some of those public comments to council as part of our recommendation, just as information. But I think I will read what I was thinking, because it echoes a lot of, Carla, what you were saying, and also what I hear from the full commission. I think we're pretty aligned on this one, which is to any sort of addition to our recommendation would read something like, the commission urges the city council to recognize that the sculpture's current site at Liverpool and Newcastle and Cardiff is a pedestal dedicated exclusively to temporary installations as part of the sculpture loan program. And maybe you get out of, anyway, I'll keep reading. This location also serves as a key marketing site for the program. Carla mentioned that. I think so many artists wanted to be placed here, so it is really, it's a prominent site. It gets a lot of foot traffic, car traffic, and it's a magnet to artists who want to apply for this program. If that pedestal is taken out of the program, it changes the feel of the flavor of the program a little bit beyond all of the great points that have already been made. So I'd say if the program is to continue effectively, acceptance of this donation would require A, identifying a new permanent location for Luminous Wave, B, securing funding for the construction of a new pedestal at that location or somewhere in that community, and C, covering all associated costs for deinstallation, reinstallation, and ongoing maintenance. And that's kind of where I came at it from.
So I just wanted to just mention that after I looked a little more closely at the other attachment from Encinitas Friends of the Arts, it does have in C installation section that the sculpture should maintain the sculpture where it is currently located. So although in the city application it didn't mention that, in their attachment it does. I think that when it was originally presented, personally, I was under the impression that the sculpture loan program intended to create additional pedestals. So one question, if the recommendation is not to do a permanent installation on this pad, the Cardiff Library is right across the street. It is city property. Is that something that could be considered, or is?
Cardiff Library is not city property. That is county.
Oh, okay.
Or it is a county library, I should say.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The Encinitas Library is a city building
Gotcha.
that is contracted with the county library to operate.
Okay. Okay.
That does not mean it's not an option, but just to clarify, the Cardiff Library and the Encinitas Library operate a little differently.
So if we, let's say, used Katie's, language to make a recommendation to accept it on those conditions, would it then need to go back to the donor? Like, what is the process there if we're sort of negotiating the donation?
The donor can't say, under the public art policy, the donor doesn't have the right to say where the piece should be located. But I think you can play this out in the extreme, right? Say everyone's like, yes, it should stay here, awesome, it goes through, council's rah, 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 and then 5 years from now, something happens and we want to move that sculpture to another location because it is now city property and it's part of the art collection, the public art collection of the city. If the donation is tied to that location, I think legally it can't work that way. I could be wrong about the legally part, but I know under public art policy, I remember a few instances since I've been a commissioner where it was so frustrating to hear that location couldn't be part of a condition of acceptance, but it's there for a reason.
Okay. So if we were to then vote on accepting the donation at this point, would we basically need to deny the donation just based on the fact that there are no plans for additional pedestals?
So keep in mind what you're voting on is to make a recommendation to council for them to accept. And in your, whatever your recommendation is, you're giving them all of that information. So it's
Okay.
ultimately city council who would accept it and
I see.
terms and so forth. So your part is really to do your due diligence and make sure council has all of that information, and then you're making that recommendation to them
Okay, thank
for
you.
them to make the bigger decision.
Yeah.
I was wondering, can the city work out some kind of negotiation of the terms for the loan? Can that be discussed or reworded, worked out?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
Could the city try to negotiate the terms? The terms are that
Of the loan or the donation?
of the donation, being at that certain site, and I don't know, have it more concrete in writing.
I don't know if negotiation necessarily, I mean, it's possible that they could come back and say the donation could be accepted. And this is me guessing, that you could say to accept it according to exactly what it says in the public art policy, which is that the city determines location. So it's possible that EFA could change their, I mean, there could be discussion during, a lot of things could happen. Right now, your role is to determine the recommendation that you would make and what is connected to that recommendation, whether you're recommending the site or the acceptance, or you can put all of your thoughts and concerns into your recommendation.
Can you just remind me, is there a timeline for what the timeline is for this? Is there any kind of looming, I don't remember like a deadline being talked about.
There is. Ideally, this is resolved so that ahead of doing the artist call next April, we know for what sites we are offering loan. At the very latest would be at the point that you are doing jurying. If it had not been determined at the time that the artist call is released in April, technically the city does not own a sculpture, and it is still a pedestal in rotation. If the donation were to take place after that artist call, then it could be any proposals for loan that were specific to that site. Those artists might need to be contacted and let them know that that pedestal is no longer available for loan, if that is what came to pass. Okay. So there's a couple scenarios depending upon timeline.
I also wanted to remind the commission, one reason why we did make a recommendation in our September meeting was out of respect to the EFA. We're coming up on giving season, and I think they were trying to garner donations this year before the end of the year, and that's the best time for a nonprofit to make something like that happen. So that was part of our kind of pushing it through, as opposed to going through the more formal process of assigning an ad hoc and digging into it. So that was just part of the timing. I would say, I mean, I think we all feel pretty strongly that pedestal should remain a possibility, should remain as part of the sculpture loan program. And we also really hope that donation can be made to the city and it can be part of our art collection. And we are extremely grateful to the EFA to have come to us with that proposal for donation. So how we can get both, I think, is a good. It's a really great problem to have, right? And it's like, wow, we're trying to get more public art, and we are. So I think the decision tonight is: do we formalize a recommendation to council now, or do we kind of sit on it, wait, try to get more public input during the month and also at our December meeting, and then form a more formal recommendation or amendment to our recommendation?
So I don't think this particular submission was reviewed by the ad hoc.
There is no ad hoc
there
right
is
now. No, ad hocs are formed when a donation comes in, and so we never formed an ad hoc, and it doesn't. We made the recommendation already, so that's another option, is that we could form an ad hoc right now for the next month to then come back in December
With a formal recommendation?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be my vote.
So then that would mean that that group would go and do work between now and then and be able to come back with additional insight that you've been able to gather.
Or at least a more formal statement of recommendation, I guess.
Well, there is an item on the public art of artwork donations. It's just not filled. So we could just fill the ad hoc slot, right?
You create one every time there is a proposal, and it's a different group of people. So it's not filled because this is the first donation, or not the first, but the donation proposal has come in.
It's
since
absolutely
then.
possible to form an ad hoc.
Yes.
I don't know if it's necessary. I mean, Carla's done a great amount of work and shared a lot of ideas. I did also. I don't mind. Separately, we could formalize those into recommendations as far as that, and maybe each individually we could all work on getting public comment. I don't know. I'm losing steam. So,
What kind of information would we be, like, what are we looking for? Because it seems like we're all pretty much on the same page. Are we looking for the words that we want to make the recommendation of? Are we looking for more creative ways to keep the sculpture and the pad? Because that would be ideal, obviously, but I'm not sure we're going to find that solution necessarily by next month.
Do you feel like you've received enough public comment on how the community feels about any of the concerns that you've expressed tonight? I'm just throwing that out there as a way to think about it.
I mean, we've only received the public comment on the original sculpture alone.
You have, in the context of it being a sculpture loan, you have not received, that comment is that comment in that context.
Right.
I'm not sure. I'm hesitant about that because I think that it's, like I said, it's a well-loved sculpture. I don't think having a lot of people here telling us how much they love the sculpture is necessarily going to help us make our decision because we all agree. I think the conversation is more about the details of the sculpture loan program.
and I would.
And the future of the sculpture loan program and what that means. So
When-
that's why I'm a little bit hesitant about, listening to a lot of people tell us how much they like the sculpture.
When I think about this, my first response is no, we haven't gotten any public comment besides when in September for this meeting. But when I think about that, we don't really need, again, public comment about the sculpture itself because we've already recommended, yeah, we think the sculpture is awesome and we want the sculpture to be accepted as a donation. What the public comment is about the sculpture loan program. And in fact, part of the recommendation that was just accepted by council had tons of public input about the sculpture loan program, about public art, and we can go through. There's so many comments about we think it should be abundant. We think it should be surprise. I mean, part of that rubric was it should be surprising and unexpected and change your day. And I mean, there's a way of thinking of it of that is what that rotation is all about. If something is now permanent there, not that you cannot have a surprising lifelong relationship, right? I hope everyone does have one of those, and that we have that even with a single piece of art. But yeah, I'm surprised to say, actually, yeah, we do have a lot of public comment when it comes to something like this. It's just not, it hasn't ever been framed this way. So we have 10 minutes left in the meeting. I'm okay with just tabling it until December. If all of you want to, if there's an ad hoc that needs to be formed, I just don't know, besides gathering more different public input, what the work of that ad hoc would be that we can't do individually, like coming up with formal language for a recommendation or thinking more deeply on it.
I think we're going to need to either have the Friends of the Arts come and talk in December and see if they're able to, provide a pedestal or what exactly they're willing to do. And figure out if there are any proposed sculpture pads in Cardiff that Colette said that she wasn't on the top of her head, but that exist, that would be able to be deployed. And I think if we can get the cost and the deployment into some sort of a agreement, or then I think we should just do it. But I think that those two things are the kind of critical items that need to happen.
I think that all sounds great, especially about the location, about the information from staff. I caution us to make a donation. I caution us against putting conditions on donations that have to do with providing another pad. It's just, it rings to me of something that shouldn't happen. And I'm not able to articulate it right now, but I wouldn't want those things to be contingent, even though I think it's a great idea. Anyway, why don't we go ahead and form an ad hoc to find, is that what you're saying? That those are the pieces of information you would want to find an ad hoc to find, or do you just want to work on that?
I mean, I just think that if you had, I think everybody on this in this panel wants to have that, and we also want to have a place in Cardiff. So if Friends of the Arts willing to come to the meeting to discuss it in December, we have that option. But we do want to make sure maybe the city has a budget that they haven't figured out, that they can come up with a pad, or there's a fundraising or something. But I think we need to we can't lose the pad. So,
Well, I suppose what might be helpful is if we could figure out a list of places where either the sculpture could go without a pad, or if we had a better understanding of where pads could go and what the process is and how much the cost would be to create those pads. I think if we could figure that out, I don't know how to, can you help us with that?
I don't know that I can pull all of that information together by your December meeting, but if you, I can pull as much of that together as possible. I can invite EFA to come back to your December meeting and be able to answer, they can answer your questions. You can have a conversation with them about their intent and, the specificity of that location versus a donation to Cardiff. So we can go in those directions.
I think that would be helpful, thank you.
I can tell you there is no secret pot of money.
dang it.
Okay, so we're moving on, or is that?
Yeah, it seems clear to me we need to probably table it, if nothing else, to kind of clean up the language that's going to be used in the recommendations. So, and whatever other input we get before that would be helpful too. So.
Okay. So I guess I just recommend then that we all work on it and then come to that meeting prepared. Considering that we have 5 minutes left, and I actually have a report that I'd like to share that just takes less than a minute for commissioner reports, but I also know that we have staff informational items to receive that aren't going to happen. So
The biggest Pacific View, come to the November 12th meeting.
yes, come to the November 12th meeting for sure.
That's the biggest
Okay.
thing.
is we welcome the public. Hearing the public's thoughts and getting their input is certainly valuable every single time. And everything else, there's on the calendar, so come, volunteer, call us. We're happy to help you.
Participate.
Yes.
Okay.
You are welcome in everything we do.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes the commission calendar. There's no commission member initiated agenda item. Is that correct? And
There are none.
no future agenda items added by commissioners. So we'll move on to commissioner reports, and I do have one. I'm just going to go ahead and read it, and then I'll open it up in case anyone else has it too. I just wanted to share that I have resigned as a board member of the Encinitas Project, which is a 501c3 nonprofit in good standing, whose sole mission is to champion and fundraise for the City of Encinitas Parks, Recs, and Cultural Art Department initiatives. I want the city and the commission and the Encinitas Project to be as successful as possible. I cannot state that as much. And I'm aware that a few members of the City Council have expressed pause about commissioners currently serving being on the board of the Encinitas Project. While I feel no conflict of interest, I'm choosing to simply remove any potential obstacles to department success, and that's why I'm resigning. Does anyone else have a commissioner report? No? Okay. Again, I really appreciate everyone's willingness to discuss and think and act, and I know that that ideas were brought tonight that we didn't even get to touch upon in part of moving along and also part of just honing in what were the goals for this specific meeting. So I look forward to December. I look forward to November 12th, and I adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:28.
Good night.